Sometimes we think that we are in love, but what we really are is in a trauma bond. There is a big difference. And today on Hot Topics Live podcast, we're going to be discussing that. The topic today is Stockholm Syndrome. And you'll be shocked to find out, I'm sure, that you could have it and not even know it. And no, not just people who have been kidnapped can have Stockholm Syndrome. So today, my guest is my girl. She's back. She's back. Gloria Londono. She is a coach. She is an author of an amazing book called Flourish in Captivity, which we're going to dive into a little bit today. And she is the podcast creator and host of Unbreakable Life with Glory, a mental health podcast that helps people who are living with anxiety, depression, and PTSD, and so much more. And so, fresh off a trip to Colombia, she's back to honor me with her presence. And if you don't know me by now, my name is Kia. I am also a coach, and I love talking to people and learning from them. And this podcast was created to remind you that you are amazing and you deserve to be living your best life possible. And this podcast aims to help you do just that. Before I bring her on, I'd like to give a shout out to my sponsor, Eris Health. Thank you so much for sponsoring this episode, Kelly. She is the founder and CEO of Eris Health. What she's creating right now, you are not going to believe. Her passion is helping people as well. I love those kind of people. They're my people. And she has created a mental health app that is a subscription-based service. And it's not available yet, so I'm not selling you anything. I'm just telling you about it and how you can go support her organization and be in the know for when it drops. So go to Instagram at Eris Health. Tell her Kia sent you and go and support what she's building there, and you'll be part of this journey. That's it. Just be aware of what's coming. Thank you to Kelly for sponsoring this episode. And without further ado, I am going to bring on my girl, Gloria. And remember, stay to the end of the episode for a message, something special I do at the very end, just for you.
Hi, Kia.
Hi, beautiful.
How are
How are you?
you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me here today. It's an honor always to be here with you and remember our old times together.
Oh my God. Well, since you are the co-founder of this podcast, it is always my honor when you will come back and hang out with me and talk stories and like share tea. And we get to just hang out and have fun like old times. So,
Yeah, we did a lot of podcasts, in 2020, 21, 22. A
mhm.
lot. We
Mhm.
have fun.
We had so much fun. I never even told anybody really about this podcast or this channel. We just stacked all of these episodes. You can see a lot more of them on our Facebook page, Hot Topics
Yeah.
Live podcast. You can see it from the beginning, but there's so many episodes on YouTube now. And I hired some people to help me like really get them organized and start promoting it, because when I see the clips of those classic episodes, as I call them, I just love them. I love
Yeah.
the work we did during the pandemic. And I think
Yes.
the people who tuned into us at that time really enjoyed the podcast and we had so much fun.
Yes, we did. And I learned a lot. That was my therapy in those years because you and me, we was going through a rough period of our times, but we are here.
Oh my God, when you say we're going through a rough period, that is an understatement. So, if you haven't seen those old episodes, there's playlists on this channel. There's tons of content on this channel. Go and start watching it because you can see how crazy we are and and what we were going through. At the time, me personally, I was going through a divorce And so for me to process that and work through that, I became a workaholic, and all I did was work at London Real Academy and podcast. Legitimately, I did workshops for female veterans, I did seminars, and I just constantly was working during the pandemic, especially even more than ever. And at the same time, I was overcoming a painful divorce.
I remember.
Mhm.
I
Yep.
remember those days. It's like I don't even want to remember those days.
I don't wanna remember them either. It was tough. I feel like I could coach people on how to go through a divorce at this stage. I mean, I've done it twice now, but, this last one, after 13 years, was really crazy, and I know that at that time, you were just starting to think, "Uh-oh, maybe I need a divorce."
Yeah.
So that is 2 different stages of the same horror story.
Oh my God. We laugh now, but we was crying like a little babies at that time.
Oh god, and work saved me. I mean, it may not be healthy, but at least I wasn't doing drugs
Me
or
too.
hoeing.
I remember you and me, we was like 2 episodes every week, 2 episodes every week,
Mhm.
2 episodes every week. We was like, no, we need this for us to
Yeah.
go through this.
Mhm. So, I mean, I feel like maybe I had some Stockholm Syndrome and I didn't know it. And then, I read your book. I was one of the people privileged enough to read it before it came out.
Mhm.
Thank you for that shout out, by the way. What a moving and beautiful honor. I'll never forget that. Thank you.
No,
And
thank you.
and I was like, maybe I had Stockholm syndrome. And then I found out later that it's true. People can have Stockholm syndrome
Yes.
and not have been kidnapped. I thought that was only for people who were kidnapped, but it's not.
No, it's not.
So I know there's real tea in your book. Okay. You really dive into like some serious, serious stuff in your book. And one of the things that I was like, "Oh my god," like I'm biting my nails, was when I mean, there's so many parts, and we've done so many episodes on of this podcast on your kidnap story. So if you
Mm-hmm.
don't know it, either buy the book or or go back and listen to these episodes because they're really powerful. Just that the initial abduction is just mind-blowing, and then what you experienced in the darkness in captivity, um, in Colombia for 90 days is just I mean, I don't know, like, the way you survived was just I don't know how you got the strength to pull through that, and then you share something that I don't even know if I would have had the strength to come clean about and share. And I don't know that a lot of people would just come out with it and say, "Oh, I had a relationship with one of my captors."
Mm-hmm.
Like, how did you decide to share that with the world?
It was it was something that it was a secret.
Mhm.
It was a secret with me because when that situation happened, that relationship happened, I said, "Oh, I'm not gonna say this to anyone for the rest of my life because people's gonna think that, oh, she didn't have like such a big a deal of being kidnapped, or she was having fun being kidnapped, or she was having a relationship love being kidnapped." But what people don't understand is when you are in a situation that you are in captivity and you don't know if they're gonna kill you. That you don't know if they're gonna sell you. You don't know if they're gonna take you to the mountains and leave you there, and who knows if you come back home. So you are in a very vulnerable state of your life, and right there. And the only thing that it came into my mind was to be kind. And I was like, thank you for the water, thank you for the food, thank you for everything. And I noticed that the energy starts to shift, and for them to start being so nice to me. But I noticed that one of them, it was kind of quiet. And when you, in my case, when I was in captivity, I started to learn how people, when they talk, the voice of the voice, the tone, if they was mad, if they're angry, if they're nervous. And I start like also smelling them. I like, it's kind of weird, but some people, they attract to us by the smell. So it was like all the five things going on in that captivity. And I read the bodies because I never see the faces because they always was covered. So I starting to learn how they act, how they move, and everything. So I discovered the one that for me was the target for me, to maybe for him to save me and to get into the door of the freedom. But before of that, I got into connected to them because in 11 days past, I went through a very deep depression. I couldn't move from my bed. And he came in the morning with the breakfast, and he said, here's your breakfast. And I said, I cannot move. And he said, what you mean you can move? I can move. I don't know. I tried to go to the bathroom and I cannot move. And then he put the breakfast down, and then he picked me up, and he saw that I was in bad shape. So he sit down next to me and bring me up and hug me. So in that moment when he hugged me, I feel like he transferred vital energy to me. And I feel so connected to him that I right away in my mind said, oh, this is the guy who's gonna save me. Because just that little show of affection, and it was not a big deal. It was like something that maybe somebody can do for you. But my situation was very dramatic where I was. So for me, that was a big, huge deal when he did that. And then I saw like, oh, I kind of like this guy. And then every time he come in, I was like very extra nice to him. And I think he got engaged with that, with that kind of energy. And I started asking him to stay more with me, that I want to talk to him, that I feel alone, that I was like, all these situations that happened, I didn't want to be alone because it was mostly of my time I was alone in the dark. So for me, any kind of sensation from a human, it was for me a big deal. And just to say good morning, just to say hello, just to like to say I bring you extra water so you can drink, that was for me a big deal. So I saw on him the door for my freedom.
You don't think that someone's gonna hug you when you're kidnapped, first of all. You don't
No.
think that someone's gonna care enough to be like, "Why aren't you eating?" or "Why aren't you getting up?" or you know what I mean? Considering, like, a lot of people, you may be just hearing this or watching this episode, you don't know how they violently ripped her out of her car and threw her into a like, it was very aggressive and
Hmm.
violent, the way that they abducted you. So you don't think that, and the way they're talking to you, and the way that they made you take your clothes off and all of that. So you don't think that one of your captors is then going to hug you and give you affection and start giving you, like, meeting your needs um in that type of environment. So I imagine when you're feeling very desperate and alone, it would be easy to fall in love with someone who doesn't have, they don't, like, obviously you're kidnapped, so they don't have your best interests at heart,
Right.
right? But in that moment, you're so disoriented and desperate that, like, any scraps will do. And it kind of reminds me of toxic relationships,
Yeah.
because you may not have been kidnapped, right? But you have found yourself in a situation where you're being treated less than how you deserve, like what you would want. And I'm not just talking about romantic relationships either. I'm talking about, it could be a family system that's
Yes.
toxic. It
Yes.
could be friendships. It could be a work environment, or an employee coworker relationship, employee boss relationship, any type of relationship obviously can be a toxic one. And you can find yourself in a situation to where you're accepting this behavior because of the dynamics that you find yourself in.
Yes. Somebody asked me how you can love someone in the place that the person have you. And I said, well, for me in that moment was the only choice, because I knew from women perspective that if I'm extra nice with the guy and I seduce him in a way, he can do practically everything I want in a very intelligent way. So I start like more into, every time he come in, oh, you smell good. And I noticed that he started like to put like some lotion. And I noticed that he started being different towards me. So we as a woman, we know when a man is into you. So when I saw that on him, I said, wow, this is the guy's gonna protect me. This is the guy's not gonna let me kill. This is the guy's is gonna interject in the negotiation for me. This is the guy's gonna do anything for me. But I was thinking, my head and my mind was thinking that. I was not sure that that would happen, that that was my intention in my survival mode. And I said, if this guy, I can make this guy to do whatever I said in a nice way, I'm gonna be free. And he bring me everything I need. When I was 25 years old, I still have my period. So when I got it, because I do have only one underwear, he bring me another underwear. He bring me some feminine stuff, and he was like aware of me. And I'm so glad that he did that to me, because I probably would be more traumatized of the way I was, because he was making me feel different in that environment. Even I don't know when I'm gonna see my family. And every time they come and, we're gonna kill you, we're gonna sell you, your family's not gonna pay anything for you, and that this torture you all the time. But I noticed that every time he come in, he was quiet. He never say things like that. Just at the end, because he knew like he don't need to do that to me, because he already was quote unquote in love with me, because he told me that he loved me. But I knew it was not love. It just, we was in a situation that we had no choice. Or he have a choice, but I do have a choice. That he
But you're a 25-year-old young, hot girl who's like been seducing him. And I think, you know what, honestly, I know I have a large male audience, but we all know this is true. Women are taught or discover in their life that it is better to um sort of seduce men to get what we need or want, or
Mhm,
to be protected, or to feel
mhm.
safe, or to be safe, right? And so I mean, it's not an amazing thing, but it's sometimes not a choice. I don't know how to explain it so that people would understand it in the correct way, but I think, a lot of times as women, we were even taught it. Like they're like it's like, okay, the man is the head, the woman is the neck, right? Have you heard that saying?
Hmm.
Meaning, women navigate the head, right? So we have to use our feminine wiles to achieve things
Yes,
a lot of times in
yes.
life. And so it's just the way it is a lot of times. And for you, and in such an extreme situation, it's surviving. So my question for you though is, at that time, did you know that you were surviving, or were you actually in love with the guy?
It's a very tricky question to answer because at the moment I feel that I love him at the
Wow.
moment. And at the moment it was a survival mode, but I didn't understand that until I got released and went through my traumas and study about it. But when I was there at 25, I have no idea what I was doing. The only thing I knew it was like I'm gonna seduce this guy for him to help me to get out in a way. That because when I hear my family saying that they was not gonna pay, I said, you know what? If my family's not gonna pay, for sure these people's gonna kill me. So what is next? The next is like, okay, I wanna be your wife or girlfriend, whatever, but don't let me kill. And I was thinking this, like I was planning in my mind, if my family was not gonna pay and they was gonna try to kill me, I tried to convince him for me to stay with him and be his wife. But I knew eventually I was gonna be able to escape and go in and get my daughter and see my daughter again. So it's tricky. It's tricky, like to understand that because I always, like I said, sometimes in my social media that the only people can understand what I'm saying is people that are being in captivity or kidnapped, and maybe people that are aware that are in a toxic relationship, that they have to be there with the abuser for them to survive in different ways. They have because they don't have money, because they don't know how to produce money, because they don't know how to work, because they are afraid because they already told them that if they leave them they're gonna kill them. So there's a lot of women and men, because the other day I put a post and a man say to me, oh, men goes through this too. Okay, so men and women, but this happens more to women. I will say that women stay when men sometimes have no choice, and they already told them if they leave, then they will kill them. So what you would do? You stay and adapt. That's the most amazing thing, that you adapt on any situation that you are in just to preserve your life.
Wow. I mean, so many people are in toxic relationship cycles where it could be life or death, or it feels like it's life or death. It may not be literally life or death for them, but it feels like it. And sometimes you're so entrenched in a relationship that you don't see a way out. And that is when you adapt. And that word, adapting to your toxic situation and trying to thrive in it, right? Because you start trying to thrive in it the best way you know how. And I say thrive, but thrive in it may not be the positive way that we think of it, right? Thriving in a toxic system might mean that you're just not getting hit, or they're not criticizing you today, or the person that you're with is just not mean and nasty towards you in their
Mhm.
energy and behavior. right? And you start to learn how to, a lot of people who are in narcissistic relationships, male or female, because women are narcissists too, right?
Yeah.
We're not going to do we don't do male bashing on Hot Topics Live because that's my
We love them.
largest
We love
audience.
them.
Okay. We love men here on Hot Topics Live podcast. So the point is, and actually, I am, because of my Navy background, tons of men in my life, as friends, as shipmates, as buddies, right? And I know firsthand that there are some trifling females out here, and they can be terrible and abusive, even physically abusive. And you learn to adapt to that environment and try to survive in it and try to thrive in it by trying to minimize either yourself or your responses, or like however you learn to maneuver in that relationship to try to have the best day or experience possible with that person. And what you may not realize is that you're not in a loving relationship, because you would think, oh, this person doesn't treat me well, I'm unhappy every day. Y- You but you love them. You may feel like you love this person, but and in spite of how they treat you, and despite how they treat you, and really it's not love. You're trauma bonded, and you may try to leave and you come right back. And you try to leave and you come right back.
Yes.
My mom had this type of toxic relationship. I once saw her throw a man's clothes out of the window of our house, and then they would get right back together. He was my stepfather for 11 years.
I
But
saw the same thing. I
breaking
saw
up,
the same
making
thing.
up, breaking up, making up. She could not leave him. It was the saddest thing. It was a sad example to set for your daughter, by the way.
Yeah. Now that you mentioned that, if we go in more deeper than what we're talking, is like I think I learned to survive in that kina because I saw my mom surviving on that relationship that she was having with my father. So I probably unconsciously knew, I was unconsciously, consciously, I kind of knew to survive. And I apply when and I apply, or my instincts apply when the situation happened. So we learn to survive from our parents in
Do
a
you
way.
do you think you saw from your mother like strategies on like the strategy you had, like, okay, I'm going to be extra sweet to him, I'm going to be extra nice, and if I can get him to fall for me, then maybe he'll save my life. Do you
Yes.
think you somehow got that from your mom?
Yes, because my mom has to be a strategist with my father all the time to ask for anything, to ask for things for us. She have to know how to talk to my father and in what time of the day, like calculate him when he comes home. If he was angry, he was mad. So she was like the mother who was taking care of the kids, because my father was very aggressive, and every time he come in, every day, my mom was so afraid because he took anything towards us, especially towards me, because he knows how to push the buttons from my mom. Okay, he knew that if he started bothering me, it was bothering him, her. So my
Wow.
mom have to navigate how to deal with him. To
So
deal with my father was so intense that I saw that from very young, and I was telling my mom all the time, "What are you doing here? What are you doing here?" And my mom, "I'm afraid. I have three kids. What you want me to do?" I remember those words.
wow.
Yeah, it was
She had
intense
Stockholm Syndrome. She was on eggshells
all the time,
all the time.
all the time.
And if you are wondering right now, and you happen to upon this podcast, you hear it somehow, and you're in this situation where you feel like you're on eggshells all the time, we're talking to you.
Yes.
This episode, you're in the right place. This episode is for you.
Yes.
So It makes me so sad because there are so many men and women who are in relationship dynamics, any type of relationship dynamic where you feel like you're on eggshells
Yes.
and and you don't
Some
know how to get out of it.
right, some women needs to think how they gonna talk to the men for not them to feel assault, and they have to like create a story to be able to talk to them.
Yeah.
Like and I know this for a fact because that happens to me in my last relationship. I remember that he always complained the way I talked to him, but I was like always reflecting in the way I talk. And I was conscious, okay, when he comes and I want to say this, for example, I'm gonna try to start in a different tone, different way, not the way, he always told me that I was. So I was like always conscious the way I talk. And I remember any way I talked to him, it was not even a way to talk to him. It was like no way. So I thought that it was me because he made me feel that all the time it was me. And that is a devastating situation. And I know a lot of women are like in that situation. They don't know if they're crazy or they don't know if the way they talk, if this is the right talk, is the way to speak to someone, because they always throw to you, you don't know how to speak. Oh, again, you again with that. Oh my God, you don't stop. That is abuse. And
Yeah.
they confuse you in a way that you start like, maybe it's me. Maybe I don't know how to talk. I don't know how to speak to this guy. Or maybe I'm the aggressive. They make you think that you are the aggressive, and it's not true.
Yeah, at the same time, you're going through all of this, yet you feel like you're so in love with the person. You love
Yeah.
them. You don't
Yeah.
want to leave. You don't want to leave. I remember
Literally.
my ex, I was so unhappy and I wanted to move. I didn't like we moved and I didn't like where we were living. I didn't it wasn't for me. And about a year he wanted to be closer to his family and I went and it just wasn't for me. Um I think when we were living in Florida, I think maybe where we were living in Florida just wasn't for me. But I wasn't used to, like, a big family system, and I wasn't used to all the politics and the dynamics within that family system, and a lot of it, quite frankly, felt a little toxic to me, and I didn't know how to, like, really cope with that, and so I said to him, "Listen, I moved from somewhere I love Chicago, and I moved from there to for my husband." We weren't married at the time, but we were in a long-term relationship. And, I didn't like it, and I said to him one day, I said, I've been living here for a year, and I don't like it. It's not for me. Like, I don't fit in here. I'm not I don't belong here. I can feel it. I'm not happy." And he said to me, "Then go." And I thought, "Oh my god, how could he say like, how could he just like me just leave? Like, then get out of here. Like, go." And, so I don't know, it was really difficult for me, and I was unable to, like, leave that situation because I was so, so in love. So, I don't know, girl, it's just one of those situations where I felt like probably I had Stockholm Syndrome looking back. Like, I was in a situation where I was living a life. Not to say there were always bad times, because there's not always bad times. There's sometimes really good times. I mean, I'm sure when you were in captivity and you had this boyfriend, right, in captivity, and you guys would have alone times together, they probably felt really special, even in that entire environment. But so that's not to say it's always bad times, but the fact of the matter is it's not love. And if it's not love, what is it? It's a trauma bond. You're muted, my love.
I think from all the relationships I had in my life, I think that one was the best one.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah. I
Wow.
was like a Rapunzel, like he
Yeah.
just bring me the stuff that I need. But yeah, he was nice to me, very nice to me.
Wow. That is wild. I can't shame on all your husbands. They just put the kidnap guy, put them all to shame just now.
Exactly. They none of them they can separate this guy. Like,
Oh my God, that's so crazy. So, okay, what do you help like when you are coaching people and you realize that they're in a trauma bonded situation that they have Stockholm syndrome? How do you begin to help them move through that? Like what can people do?
well, I think that the most important thing is for the person to realize that they are in a very toxic environment, that they need to make a change, and they have to know if that change it will bring a lot of changes that maybe they don't want to go through, but you have to go through because if you're gonna make a decision or get divorced, everything change, your status, the way you live. But what's more important? So that's the question. What is more important? Your freedom of your soul to be happy and peace and waking up every day in a very peaceful environment for yourself, or an environment that always you are like walking in shells like all the time, worry and all the time like afraid to speak up, afraid to say anything. And that person needs to make that decision. So I make them clear what are if they go with the route of making the big change, it's going to be for better. It's going to be for better, but it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. It's not easy. But once you pass that, you will feel like the best decision you ever made. But it's a process, and it's like, I ask, are you ready to make this change? Sometimes they say, yes, I'm ready. Okay. So I explain everything what we have to go through. And then I ask questions about, okay, are you willing to? Are you willing to do this? Are you willing to do that? So it's a very deep, uh, work that you do with your client, and the client have to be open. I don't see people that they're not ready. They're like, if they come to me and they say, I don't know if I want to do this and that, I probably I will help them to maybe make the decision, but they are not there. It's very difficult to just help that person because it's not ready. It's not their
Mm,
fault, it's just not ready. So for a
yeah.
coach or for a therapist, it's so hard to work with somebody just they are thinking that maybe they are in a toxic relationship. I think the person needs to recognize already that when they come to me.
I agree. I mean, well, look, like realistically, if you got like your friends, right, your girlfriends or your guy friends, and I was just actually talking to this guy friend I have yesterday about like relationship stuff, and I'm really excited because I'm going to convince him to come on the podcast for the
Mhm.
dating after divorce series so we can talk like guy girl dating situation, and what we are experiencing and what we're seeing, because we were talking about all the coaching that's online. Don't do this, don't do that, for both male and female, which we've seen and we were talking about yesterday, and it was really crazy, what people are being told and how a lot of it is crap. Real, because it really doesn't work when it comes down to it. So we were like commiserating about that and laughing about it. And I think he's going to come on the podcast and we're going to talk about this, right? So one of the things we were talking about yesterday, was that you could tell a friend, right? you need to, like, that person's not for you. Or,
Hmm.
honey, that's a bad guy. Or, dude, you let that girl go. Let her go, man. Like, right. And if they are in love and they feel like they're not ready to do that, they will cut you off. You'll be completely right. You'll be like telling him, like, and like, how many times are you gonna let that guy talk to you like that? Or how many times you're gonna let that girl cheat on you, or whatever it
Yes.
is, right?
It
And
will fire back. It will fire back.
it,
Whatever you said,
yes. Yeah, it will backfire on you no matter how much you love the
backfire.
person, what a good friend you are, no matter what. They will put distance if they're not ready to hear that, ready to face that, ready to take those steps to free themselves from that toxic connection. I mean, even, dare I say, even my little son was going through something and he couldn't see that the girl was not good for him, right? And so I had to do everything possible to support him, to like, to get him to be ready to leave that connection, because I could see that it was like this girl was draining the life force out of his body, right? He was
Right.
just not who he is. And a mother knows that about her son, you know? And
Hmm.
a lot of times we know that about our friends and our brothers and our sisters. And we can see that when the person is not, maybe it's not a bad person, but they're just not right for them,
Exactly.
you know?
This is what, like me as a coach, I never give an opinion, and I learned to do this because I was used to like, oh, I want to help people. So when I see people doing stuff, oh, I think you should do this. Oh, I think you should. And I had a lot of issues, people saying things, it's not your problem. I don't want to hear, blah, blah, blah. So I learned that if you don't tell me, if you don't ask me for an opinion, I will not give it to you. Even I can see you going downhill, I would not say anything because probably you need to go downhill to find out what exactly you need to learn. So when you say things to people like an opinion or whatever, you are stepping in that path. And when you're stepping in that path, this is not the right for you to do that. Because if you need to step in that path, life will put you in that path for maybe that person to ask you, oh Kia, what do you think I should do with this? And the question that you have to say, the answer you have to give is, you want me to give you an opinion of what you asking me? Oh, yes, yes. Are you sure you want to hear what I think? Oh, yes, yes. So you have to make sure if the other person is ready to hear what you're going to say. Because sometimes they're not ready and you
Such a good point.
cannot push that.
Oh, for real. I mean, oh, my ex-boyfriend that went to the Ukraine war, one of my dear friends in life just kept saying, break up with him. Everyone said it, actually. Everyone in my life was like, break up with him. And I just wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't do it. And I ended up getting my heart broken because he went to that war and he just came back different. And I knew that that was a risk because I'm a veteran, but I was
Hmm.
hopeful that it wouldn't happen that way. And it's exactly what happened, and I had it to go through. I had to, because you know why? Realty, because that breakup changed me for the better on every single level of my life.
Right.
I had it to go through,
You had it to
right?
go through.
And just the same as the toxic relationship, because I said that it could be toxic relationships you have with anybody in your house. I took a friend in who had been suicidal. I took her into my home. I said, just get here. She came from Chicago. She came here. She moved into my home. And I said, you don't have to worry about anything. You know why? Because you need an opportunity. And not everyone gets this kind of opportunity. But because we've been friends for 30, almost 30 years, I'm
Hmm.
going to give you an opportunity to rest. You don't have to worry about anything. I'm going to take care of you and your dog. All you have to do is help me a little bit around my house and with my kids, and help me with my podcast and stuff. I'll even pay you. So you're living in my house, in my home, rent free. You don't even really have to put in for anything. She helped with groceries a little bit. And I will even pay you to help me with my business. Right.
Right.
But you do have to get a job because I'm only going to give you like part-time work, but you do have to get a job because I want you to get on your own 2 feet. And so the thing was, she was to live with me for a year and she would get on her feet and I would provide mostly for everything. And she would have that time to like recover from her breakup, work on her mental health. I encouraged her to get counseling. I coached her for free. People pay me to coach them. I coached her for free. So
Mm-hmm.
this was the setup. And she completely took advantage of it. She did not help, very little. What she was more concerned about was chasing men.
This
She
cycle.
she wasn't she wasn't concerned about getting on her own 2 feet. She was too afraid of standing on her own 2 feet, having
Right.
her own place. Being an independent woman was too frightening for her. It was so frightening that it cost us our friendship because what did she do? Betray my trust over a man at some point. And everyone in my life was like, I don't want to deal with that person. You should probably get her out of your life. Like, it's not a good situation. She's taking advantage of you, all of this. And I tried to go to, because what do you do when you're like a healthy person? You go to the person and you call it out and you say, hey, this is not cool. Like, and I did
Right.
that more than once. And then she crossed one of my boundaries. And at that point, I said, you have to move, you have to leave. And then after that, she still created drama in my life and accused me of being a bad person and all of these ugly things, to the point where I had to put her out of my life because it's incredibly toxic. When you don't see how someone just tried to help you, even through some of it was tough love, but it was still help financing your life. And all you want to do is take and take and take. Well, again, I found myself in a toxic situation.
And you interfere in her path because
Exactly.
you should have her at the first moment that she called you, you should never offer anything.
Well,
And let her be.
so another friend of mine said to me at this time, she said to me, when I was like really upset and I'm like, I cannot believe I'm helping this friend and this is how she's treating me. And she said to me, you are denying her destiny. You're not helping her. She has this to go through. She needs to fall. She
Yeah.
needs to hit rock bottom so that she actually does learn, you know? And I thought, wow, that's a really good point. So when it came time for me to go, okay, now you crossed a boundary, you need to move, you need to go. I was okay with it because I was like, you know what? This is her path. This is her destiny. She has to deal with it. She has to have this experience of falling flat on her face and then figuring it out for herself. And she's a survivor. She survived, right?
Every,
She's
everybody's
fine.
a survivor.
she's
Everybody's a
she's fine.
survivor.
Well, some people give up. So when it comes time to sink or swim, some people sink, honey. They do. But you have to choose to be a survivor. You have to choose life. You have to choose sometimes the difficult path and actually do what it takes to make it through. So,
There you
for
go.
example, you bringing it full circle, right? You were in a difficult situation and you were there. You said 2 weeks, you sobbed, you cried, you couldn't even cry anymore. You were in a depression, right? And at the end of that depression, you made a decision. What you did was you made a decision, subconsciously or not, or consciously, to survive and to do whatever it took to survive. You hear this from sexual assault survivors. You
Hmm.
hear this from robbery, like violence survivors, and all kinds of situations of dangerous scenarios people find themselves in where they decide they want to live. And so they do the thing that a lot of people would, or their opinion would be like, I would never do that. So some
Yeah,
people
of
watching
course.
this might judge you because people get judgy when they're online and go, oh, I would never hook up with my captor and that's whatever. But no, you're a survivor and you survived that situation. You lived. You could have died,
Yeah.
but you lived because you made a choice to survive. And that's like when you make a choice to leave that toxic relationship, that trauma bond, when you stop giving yourself permission and excuses for staying in it, and you realize, okay, I got to get out of this. Maybe I have Stockholm Syndrome. Maybe I need some help. Maybe I need to talk to someone. Maybe I need therapy. Maybe I need a coach. When you start to make those decisions, that's the beginning of your freedom. That's you
Yeah.
being a survivor.
Yeah. There's a lot of fear that happens. It's like terrified. You terrified when you're gonna make that decision.
So much
And you
fear.
have sometimes you need someone next to you to help you to go through that, to at least hold the space for you to be able to do that
Yeah.
and not feel alone. Like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and then what? And what I'm gonna do here? This is what you should do. This is what I think you should do.
Yeah, I mean, we did that when we were going through our divorces. We
Yeah.
held the space for each other. Good.
Yes.
And you had a really cushy life. Okay. You could
Yes.
have really decided, like, literally, you were a lady of leisure. You just did classes all day and
Yes.
yoga and
Yes.
shopped and had like this life that most people would kill for, right?
Yes.
And what happened? You gave it up because
Yeah.
you chose you.
Yeah. I was miserable. And
Mhm.
I said, I opened my eyes one day. I said, I'm 48. Wow, already passed half of my life, and I'm in this miserable state. And everything I went through, my kidnap and everything, and I'm just not gonna remember how I survived and get out from that. I'm gonna get out from this, and that's what I did. Just remember me. The kidnap story is for me a powerful story for me because every time I feel like down, whatever, I remember, hey, that Patty, because my name is Patricia, that Patty is the strongest one. So I always remember Patty. Oh, and that's why we make the decision. I said, I can't stand this marriage anymore. And whatever happens, whatever happens. And I had a lot of fear because my life was gonna change drastically, but it was worth it because happiness and freedom and feeling like you deserve everything, and then you recuperate yourself because I sometimes I said, wow, and I see pictures of me and I said, wow, how I let go my life just to be in this relationship. It was my fault, of course, it's not his fault, but wow. And for me to recuperate my self-esteem and for me to be again the person that I am today, wow, it took a lot of toll from me. It took a lot of energy for me to rebuild myself again. But it's not impossible. It's worth it because then you're gonna say, "Wow, I still have another 50 years." Let's see, I have another 50 years or maybe another 40 years to connect with myself and be happier and wait for the last day of your life happier and free and not miserable and sick. It's mute.
Oh my gosh, it's so powerful of a statement, right? Just it's so important to understand that, you know, it's freedom. It's free when
Yeah.
you're in it, you can't see that. It's so hard to see that there can be a better life experience on the other side of that relationship, whether it's, quitting that job or cutting off those family members or friends, you know, and changing that. But while you're in it, it almost feels like there's no better way, because you're so afraid of the unknown. And I
Yeah.
think that fear of the unknown keeps people entrenched in those situations.
I would say that, for example, I'm going to give you an example very powerful too. My mom was married for 33 years. I would say my mom was kidnapped for 33 years, being in that miserable life. And when she took the decision to leave my father, she lost everything. She was also living a very good life, like very pampered and everything. And she said, I can't stand this anymore. And she lost everything. And she's 71 years old today. And I look at her, she don't have anything, like money and anything like the way she has before. She don't have anything. But you can see that she's resting, that she's different. And she said, I choose to be the to make that decision to have my 71 or 80 years old in peace because I was like very like her self-esteem was crushed completely for 33 years. Imagine that.
I can't imagine it. You know, I've never been someone who's afraid to walk away from a relationship that's not working for me. I'm also the girl who's going to give it my all. I'm going to give it 1,000% to try to make this relationship work because when I go into one, I'm committed. But I'm also not the girl who's going to stick around for bullshit for too
No,
long. And I
no,
think with my last marriage, my second marriage, I stuck around. The first one was 5 years. For three of that, I fought very hard to try to make that relationship work. But what I realized, and I was only 27 when we divorced, we didn't have any kids. I realized that my future looked like his parents' life. And his parents, to me, looked like there was no affection, no intimacy. There were just roommates living separate lives under a same roof. And I couldn't. Can you blame me? I could not. First of all, I need sex. I'm trying to get it in. I'm and
right.
at 27 in your 20s,
Yes,
come
yes,
on.
yes,
So I couldn't believe that I was married to someone who just didn't even want to do that with me. Come on. And I was very well provided for, and I felt like a caged bird. Like I felt like a doll on a shelf. Was
trophy
kind of
wife.
a trophy wife without the excessive money. I mean, we were comfortable, but he did well, but I felt like he would just like take me off the shelf and dust me off, and whenever he was interested, and any other time I was just did not even matter. And then that went away. So my second marriage though, I tried very hard to make it work for our kids. First for my older son, and then we had another baby, and we were very it was like ups and downs, right? So sometimes it's not very clear that you're in a toxic relationship, okay? Because our relationship for the most part for many years was pretty good, but we would get into like a fight, and then the verbal abuse would start, right? And he
Right.
was the only man in my life that ever spoke to me like that, and I would always try to like teach him a better way for some reason. So it wasn't like
Oh,
I was like this abuse victim. I
yeah.
wasn't. It's just that he would sometimes drink too much and get out of hand, or sometimes we would get into it and he would be just terrible. And it would be this horrible fight. And then I'd always be after the fight, you know, we're going to go to counseling. He would always go to counseling. We would always work through it. And so it did not seem to me like a toxic relationship until the day that I realized it really was and that I had to leave it. So I was terrified at that time because, again, I was being provided for. I was a stay home mom and I had two kids by then. And from one day to the next, I was in this marriage, and then this big catastrophe happened. And then that day, I was like, oh my God, I have to leave this marriage. And it was then that the overwhelming fear nearly kept me stuck because I had nothing without him. So I thought.
You know, Kia, they said that we have to be better than our parents. And people think that it's just the money wise and the way they are successful. But I would say more into, I saw my mother. I said my mother sacrificed her life to show me all the abuse that a man can do to a woman and how a woman can resist all that. And then to see my mother took the decision, say 33 years, that's it, I'm done. And we are talking about other times. My mom is another generation, and my mom stopped it, and she don't have anything, any no money, because my father gave her just a little bit of money, but not the money that she was used to. So she don't have that much, and she was able to live just like that. So every time when I see her at 71 and so active and beautiful and still wanted to live, it reminds me that, like, I come from that woman that doesn't tolerate bad behavior from men. But also at the same time, it was her journey to learn that. And it was her journey to show me that. And I am grateful for that. And those things, like, you don't understand when you just go deep into your soul, into your family, and see why things happen. Because we are so used to like to just talk about your mother or your father in a bad way, or criticize them for whatever they give you, but they give you tools for you not to repeat the story. But at the same time, you have to be grateful within that they sacrifice to show you that. And there's a lot of people that, oh, I hate my family. I was one of those. I hate my family for a long time. But I got into conclusion that if I want to attract the best men, the better men in my life, a more abundance, to live in peace, I have to heal my roots. And my roots is my father and my mother. And that's what I went into that journey. So now I see my two mother and father, what both teach me. And I said, wow, that was a Bible. Like they give me all this information that my daughter sometimes say to me, I'm not gonna be like you, like Mary many times. And I said to her, I hope, I wish you to not marry many times what I did. Because kids or they try to hurt the parents in a way, but not intentionally. It's because also they are hurt for our actions. But at the same time, I'm so wise to say to her, listen, I know where you're coming from with that, what you're saying, but I wish you to not go through many marriages that I went through. So she was like, oh, like, wow. I'm not gonna say, I'm not gonna engage in her energy that was trying to hurt me. I understand where she's coming from, but I learned from all the things that I saw. So if I don't see all the things that I saw, I probably would not even answer to her and understand where she's coming from. It's mute.
Yeah, that's really powerful. I was messing around with my mic and stuff over here. So, because we're live and when things happen, we just roll with it. But that's really powerful because we do have to, we do have to like realize what we've gone through and
Hmm.
what we're doing and how it affects those around us, especially when we're in a situation where we could have Stockholm syndrome and not even know it. Like,
Yeah,
you don't think you have it because you think it only happens to people who have been kidnapped and held in captivity, but are you free? You,
exactly.
you know? And you could be doing it to yourself. So, and that has a broader impact, like you were saying, on the people around you, like your kids. For example, like I said, I stayed in my relationship for my kids, like many people do, like your mom probably did, keeping herself in captivity for 33 years,
Yes,
right? In a toxic, abusive relationship, right? And so for me, it wasn't that serious, but I thought I was doing the best thing for my kids. And my son said to me one day, I wish you would have left sooner.
my daughter
So,
also told me that a long time ago.
Yeah. So you think you're doing the right thing by keeping yourself stuck, but really it has greater implications. However, like you said, our journeys are our journeys. And sometimes there are these crazy, awful things that we go through. And it's like I tell my female veteran sisters on the Female Veterans podcast when I do their interviews that one of my favorite quotes is, "You never know when your story will be someone else's survival guide." And if you hadn't been held in captivity for 90 days and learned about Stockholm Syndrome, you wouldn't have this great message from your book, that you can share, and also to let people know, hey, are you in captivity? Are you keeping yourself stuck? Are you a prisoner of your own mind? Are you a prisoner of fear?
Oh yeah, that's the number one. The fear is the key, is the key, is the keychain. You have to open to be free.
Yeah, it's what keeps you stuck. And sometimes we have to feel that fear because we don't I'm a positive person. I love positivity, but we don't do toxic positivity, right? We feel our
Exactly.
feelings. So you feel that fear, but sometimes you have to do it anyway. And so if there's anything that I would say that I hope you take away from this episode is that to check and see, do you have Stockholm syndrome? Are you in captivity, whether it's in a toxic relationship system or of your own mind or a fear? And how can you get your freedom? What are the steps? Are you ready? Are you ready to take the steps? Are you ready to get the help to get free? And maybe the first step for you is just recognizing that that's where you're at. So, Gloria, what would you hope that people would take away from this episode?
I would like people to educate themselves about the things that are happening to them, to feel, to write down whatever comes into your mind and check that. And I think is to feel I'm happy. If I'm happy here, do I wake up happy? Do I feel free that whatever I want to say, I can say without an issue? That I can express myself and I'm gonna be, judged. So all those questions is the ones that they need to ask the person. I want to be free, and how I can be free, and look for help, because it's easy to say to done to do it. And for me, it took a long time to be able to be free, because I'm free right now. I'm in the top of my life, free. I feel happy. I feel lighter. Even people say that it notice in my skin, in my voice, in my hair, the way I walk, the way I do stuff. And I like that because sometimes we don't see that. We do the work, but sometimes we don't see that. And people recognize that. And when people recognize that is when you say, oh, okay, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And I feel that way what people are seeing in me.
It's beautiful. Well, I see it in you. You are
Thank you.
absolutely glowing. And I love that. It's been a long journey. I've seen you through every bit of it, the ups, the downs, everything. And I kept telling you, don't worry. And it's going to take some time, but you're going to come out the other side and you're going to be okay. And that is the same thing I would tell everyone. Like, once you make that choice, it's not easy. I'm not trying to say it's easy. It's not easy, but it's worth it, because when you
Yes.
get to the other side, you realize what freedom really feels like. And it's amazing.
And yes, Kia, you saw me with all the tips and tricks in in my life.
All the moments,
Oh my
all the
goodness.
sadness, all the hope. When the hope was gone, like every bit, I will never wish a divorce on anyone, but I would
Mm.
always tell everyone to choose happiness, to
Just
choose
choose you.
peace, to choose yourself. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it has been such a great conversation, Gloria. I never know where ours are going to go. They could go anywhere.
We started in a way and then we finish in another way.
But I think we made the point.
I think so.
I think the point was definitely that you could have Stockholm Syndrome and not know it. And this is kind of what you should look for. And this is how you can deal with it. And I hope that's the takeaways from this episode. Um, but I want to thank you so much for being a guest. I always love to spend time with you and chat with you because we've been through so much together and we've seen each
Yes.
other through some of the worst moments in our life and some really great ones too.
Yes.
And so thank you so much for being a guest today. Before I say goodbye to you, I saw on your Instagram story that you are going to be relaunching your podcast with new episodes.
Yes, I am.
Tell me about that.
I'm gonna start in February, and the first guest is gonna be you.
Ah. How about that?
And and I think I'm thinking and focusing in toxic relationships and in Stockholm syndrome, but also I think we can mix it a little bit, so we can have a little bit of everything, but more in towards the mental health awareness. That's the one number one thing that I want to help the most, so people to feel free.
I am so happy to be a guest again on Unbreakable Life with Glory, where you can listen to episodes of Unbreakable Life with Glory right now. There's tons of them. The new
Mhm.
episodes obviously are coming in February, but you can listen to this anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. So go and subscribe to her YouTube channel so she can grow it and grow it and grow it. And make sure you share with someone who could use the information, and set your notifications. Hit that little notification bell so you know when she's live, just like the same thing here. I always tell you. And so go and support Gloria on her path of helping people with their mental health.
Thank you so much, Kia, for this opportunity to be here today with you. And I love you and thank you for your support all the time and thinking about me.
Always, you my girl. I love you so much, and I'll see you in a minute. I'm just going
All
to
right.
wrap up the show, and I'll be right there.
Bye bye, everybody.
Oh my gosh, we love her. We love her. Okay. I love you too. Don't feel unloved. And I hope that you got something from this episode. Before I wrap it up, I just want to remind you that you can follow me on any of these places. And I'm finally going to put my podcast up on X, formerly known as Twitter. So you'll be able to find me there too soon, and on Threads. If you're on there, I'll be on there as well. If you happen to watch this live or you want to watch it live, set your notifications, hit that little bell so you know when I'm live. Make sure that you share, and subscribe. And if you're watching live, don't be shy. Drop a comment. I love your comments. You can comment after the fact if you're watching this recorded or listening to it on Spotify, or watching it now, I think on Spotify. You can drop me a comment there. I love my comments. I read them. And I appreciate them. And if you want to be part of the show and join the conversation or ask a question or anything like that, don't be shy. Drop a comment when you are watching live. So that's another reason you want to set your notifications. If you like pinup and pretty pictures and all of that stuff, you can follow me on Creativity, right? You can see some of the magazines that I'm in. That was my cover. This is not me on the cover. This is October Divine. However, I am in this magazine. So if you want to see it, you have to find the links on my Instagram, and then you can go purchase it and collect them for yourself. So this is the moment where we do something really special for you. I'm going to try to do it really quickly because I want to wrap up this show. And I want you to take a deep breath and close your eyes. And I'm going to play a little card game for you at random. We're going to shuffle these up, and then one's going to fly out, and it's going to be a message from you, from your, I don't know, higher power, your source, your higher self, whatever you believe in. We're open to all of it over here. So let's do it really quickly. It looks like my battery is getting low. So, all right. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate you for watching to the end, by the way. And if you have, you're part of our family here, our tribe. You have, when was the last time I couldn't stop laughing or smiling? Go back to a moment when you laughed so hard you almost peed your pants, or did. Feel the laughter grow in your body, your cheeks hurting and eyes watering. Maybe there was even a snort or two. Laughter is healing. It reminds us to take life less seriously and find the joy in the littlest things. Note to self, laugh more often. Today's soul action, make somebody laugh today. Well, we laughed today, and I always laugh when I'm with Gloria. So I hope you laughed with us, and I hope you will find joy and laughter in the rest of your day. Tune in next week. I will have another episode for you. I think I am doing this podcast, and I have an extraordinary guest who's launching something big. So if you want to know what that is and how it can help you, you'll have to tune in, set your notifications. And also, I'm still doing dating after divorce. So I'm coming back with another episode soon. And like I said, my friend, a very cool guy, might be joining me so we can talk stories and commiserate male and female, not male versus female, male and female. And I hope you'll love it. So I love you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.